This is a special edition of KCRG TV9 News, sponsored by APAC Customer Services, a team of people who can.
Good morning and Merry Christmas. I'm Renee Chou.
Ditto on the Merry Christmas. I'm Andy Shaw. Welcome to this holiday edition of the Saturday Morning News.
Instead of our regular 3-hour newscast, we'll only be on the air 1 hour this morning. And instead of reporting on today's top stories, we'll take a look back at some of the top stories of the past year.
They are the stories that changed some lives but touched all of our lives.
One story that has made headlines all year is Y2K. In a few days, we'll finally know just how badly the computer bug will bite us. That is, if it bites us at all. No one is willing to say absolutely nothing will happen. But power companies, phone companies, and hospitals in eastern Iowa say they're pretty sure the date change will be uneventful. TV9's Joe Coffey shows how, if anything does happen, people will be standing by ready to swat the Y2K bug.
The Cedar Rapids Police Department will be double-staffed around midnight New Year's Day. Expect a full command staff on duty, more officers on the streets, more mechanics in the garage, you name it.
Well, the police department in the city of Cedar Rapids as a whole is ready for the event. We've been planning for probably over a year citywide.
The police department's generator will be ready for action, so will the 911 center. Y2K could add some extra fireworks, but New Year's is a busy time for police anyway.
There's probably going to be some extra celebration because it is a millennium, and we hope that people won't drink and drive, but we'll handle things that come up in that respect, and you never can tell. The weather might not be cooperative, and we could always have severe weather at that time. That's always a complication, but we'll be ready for it.
The Linn County Emergency Management Agency will be staffed round the clock. They advise people to be prepared for any emergency all year long.
We hope that people are gearing up for the winter storm possibility, because that's probably, in all likelihood, that's a more realistic possibility that an ice storm will knock the power out more so than the millennium change.
The Linn County EMA is prepared to be the backbone of communication for any emergency. They have a standalone phone system, direct lines of communication to the state and federal governments. They even have a radio that can communicate with TV9's Weather Lab.
If necessary, there are even more backup radio systems to use in this room. This is a ham radio. Using this, you can talk to people all around the world. Over here is another communication system. Using it, you can talk to the National Guard, the Civil Air Patrol, and the Emergency Operations Center in Des Moines.
We're saying relax, enjoy all the festivities that are going on, enjoy Christmas, but yet at the same time we're saying, as always, be prepared.
So backup systems are in place. The backup systems are in place. The police department is ready for anything. Let's see what happens. In Cedar Rapids, Joe Coffey, KCRG TV9 News.
Even if most computers prove to be Y2K compliant, Y2K hysteria could contribute to any potential problems. For example, it's not a good idea to pick up your phone and check for a dial tone at midnight New Year's Eve. Phone companies say their systems are compliant, but just like on Mother's Day, if too many people pick up their phones at the same time, it could overload the system.
One of the biggest stories in Iowa City this year lit up the sky and changed the look of the downtown area forever. A fire broke out in the basement of Mondo's Sports Cafe early in the morning of March 26th. By sunrise, flames turned the 3-story building into a pile of smoldering wood and bricks. TV9's Iowa City reporter Mike Wagner was there, and he tells us firefighters had two choices when they arrived on the scene: save the building or save the people living inside.
The fire at the Mondo Sports Cafe couldn't have happened at a worse time for the people sleeping above the restaurant. About 14 people lived in 2 floors of apartments above Mondo's. The bar was a popular hangout, and often drunk patrons would pull the fire alarm for the apartments. So false alarms early in the morning were a common thing. But on this night, the fire alarm was for real.
At about 3 in the morning, the fire alarms were going off, so I looked out the window and we could see fire trucks and smoke down below, so I went and woke up my roommate and we had to go out the fire escape because the smoke was so thick you couldn't even see down the hall.
The fire started in the building's basement, and firefighters say it had quite a head start before the alarms went off. When they arrived, rescue crews searched each floor for people. Many were saved just in time.
Some of the last people came down. Flames were starting to come up through the stairs coming down from the upper floor apartments. So it was, and shortly after we evacuated everybody, the building did collapse.
Many renters did not have insurance. They escaped with their lives and the clothing they were wearing.
My life is gone. Everything I owned was in that building. I don't have anything anymore, and I don't know what's going to happen now.
Neighboring businesses worried what would happen to their livelihood as well. The computers inside Mid-American Securities held vital client information, but firefighters were able to get inside before they started spraying water.
Well, the firemen did a great job. They tarped a lot of the south end of the building, and really we only had a couple computers that we had to replace.
Incident Commander Jim Humston says he thinks about the fire when he passes workers working on the new Mondo's building.
I walk away from there knowing that first, every occupant in there got out safely. We rescued a lot of people. Every firefighter walked away from there safe, went home that morning at 7. And the building's going to be rebuilt.
The 6-story building should be done by August of 2000. From the Iowa City newsroom, Mike Wagner, KCRG TV9 News.
Firefighters sprayed 320,000 gallons of water on the fire. The cause has never been determined.
Christmas is a time when family members come together, but for one Eastern Iowa family, the holidays are only a painful reminder of the time when that was possible.
Jerry Yusofsky and his daughter Marlena will be spending this Christmas without their mother and 6 other relatives. They all died in an explosion at the Yusofsky's Richland home on Labor Day. Meanwhile, Bev Gardner and Barb Dyer, who have been recovering at Covenant Rehabilitation Center in Waterloo, are home for Christmas.
This morning, I'm going to take you back to the day when the unthinkable happened.
The magnitude of the incident was just shocking. And this never happens in a small community, but it did.
It was Monday, September 6th. That afternoon, family and friends were having a Labor Day barbecue at the Yusofsky home in Richland. Then came an explosion that could be heard for miles.
The house was completely engulfed, and most of the house was actually in the basement.
People everywhere, ambulances, air care, law enforcement, firemen, everybody trying to help these people.
But there were 7 people rescue workers couldn't help. The explosion killed Juanita Yusofsky and her daughter Ashley, Juanita's parents and her sister Marlene. Juanita's other sister Dorothy and Dorothy's husband Ed also died in the blast. There were 6 survivors. Bev Gardner of Iowa City and Barb Dyer of Richland both suffered burns on 70 to 80% of their bodies. They're undergoing therapy at Covenant Rehab Center in Waterloo. Josh Kleinmeyer and Trey Gartner of Iowa City also lived through the blast. And homeowner Jerry Yusofsky and his daughter Marlena are rebuilding their lives in Fairfield. As far as what caused the home to explode, officials say it was a propane gas leak.
Owner of the residence had built a dog pen, and when he drove a steel post in it, had nicked a LP line that leaked LP into the basement area. And then when something kicked on it, blew up.
After the explosion, many communities in Keokuk County held fundraisers for the survivors. One example is in Fairfield, where 4-H club members sold these jars of goodies to help Barb Dyer and her family.
Your heart has to go out to the survivors of the ones who died. The loss to a family, especially a very close family. This family was extremely close, and to lose so many of their numbers is just, I don't know how you describe it.
I think they need to think that they have a lot of people thinking about them and praying for them, and that we just hope the best for all of them.
After Christmas, Bev Gartner and Barb Dyer will return to Covenant Rehab Center in Waterloo for 5 hours a day of intensive therapy to gain their strength.
Coming up next, the flood of '99 and a flood of trouble.
Welcome back. As we look back and remember the top stories of 1999, one story thousands of Eastern Iowans would like to forget is the flood of '99.
You know, many towns were hit hard, but the flood of '99 may have wiped the entire Clayton County town of Littleport right off the map. Almost all property owners in Littleport are taking part in a federal buyout program. And once that process is complete, their homes and businesses will be torn down. As TV9's David Scott tells us, Eastern Iowa's raging rivers wiped out a lot of history, and only a few people are left to tell it.
The town of Littleport's Christmas of 1999 was largely washed away 7 months ago. In mid-May, the Volga River simply erupted. The town's 67 people evacuated, flushed out, most never to return again.
I'm 81 years old, and I can remember back 70 years, and I seen a lot of floods in Littleport, but never one nowhere near like this.
Henry Rodas and his wife Emma make up one of just 6 families who remain in downtown Littleport this Christmas.
This was the bank and post office. This was Jerry Brown's.
Damage here is so severe, the threat of future flooding still so high, almost all the neighbors had to move away. Henry and Emma knew this Christmas would be quiet based on an earlier holiday, Halloween.
Halloween is weird. There's no children came this year.
Years back at Halloween, they'd come for them tricks or treats, and there'd usually be, 40, 42 a few times, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Nothing this year.
Most of the cars that drive down Main Street nowadays aren't familiar to the folks still living here.
I don't know who they are. I wave at everybody.
They're just passing through, some just wondering what a modern-day ghost town looks like.
It's the quite a thing. What are you going to do?
But there are still folks like Art Honke, who remembers what Littleport used to look like when it was in its prime.
Oh, a nice little town. It was a nice little town. There was about everything here, too. Hardware store and tavern and grocery store and bank, and it's all gone. Yeah, it's kind of bad.
Bad that only memories now remain.
All the farmers, they brought their cream here to the creamery. They brought their eggs here. And, heck, it was a booming little town.
Even I've got my own personal story about Littleport. The first time I came here, I didn't even know its name. And I had only come here to ask for directions to get to someplace else. But as I looked around, I said, this is what a small town should look like. When I came back after the May flood, I didn't even recognize the place. The curvature of the main street, though, gave me a sense of deja vu. This town seemed somewhat familiar. And walking around now, the place looks only somewhat familiar to those who spent decades of life here.
I know it's different. That's all I can say. I don't know what to think. I know how it happened, and that's it.
In Littleport, David Scott, KCRG TV9 News.
30 Littleport resident owners are taking part in the voluntary federal buyout program, which will cost an estimated $978,000. Even though not everyone has received their share of the funds, most have found new places to live, and they chose to stay in nearby communities like Edgewood and Elkader. Buildings bought by the government will be torn down.
One of the most heartbreaking stories from the flood of '99 involved a 6-year-old girl from Central City. Jessica Simmons lost her home and everything in it. The floods filled Central City with germs her little body couldn't handle. So, under doctor's orders, Jessica had to move away from her hometown, never to return, at least not until she recovers from cancer. But TV9's James Clark says the story does have a happy ending.
There are moments you'd never know anything bad had ever happened to Jessica Simmons.
And so everything's molding and mildewing. So I'm trying to get it.
But it wasn't so long ago that Jessica had to leave everything behind. Her house was flooded, and mildew meant germs. Germs could have been the death of Jessica, so she had to leave her home and leave her friends from school.
Here's a bedroom.
So little Jessica was homeless until someone donated the use of an apartment in Mount Vernon.
Raise your hand. What do you think you'll need?
Now she's making new friends at a new school.
Get those materials out so we can get started making our puppet.
Are you pretty grown up for 6 years old?
Mm-hmm.
How come you're so grown up?
I don't know.
School is
a real happy time for her. It's a time where she can kind of forget about all her illness and the medications and everything else, and it's time for her to just sort of let down her guard and be a kid.
Mrs. Kramer, Jessica's first grade teacher, says Jessica is a joy to have in class. She still has to leave from time to time for chemotherapy.
I told them when I first got here, and I told them that I had cancer, me and my teacher.
Do they know what that is?
Whenever she goes into the hospital and she's gone for a week or so, the kids pile up cards on her desk to make her feel welcome when she comes back. And
I hear that every time you go to the hospital, you have a whole bunch of get well cards when you get back.
Uh-huh.
How does it make you feel?
Pretty good.
Pretty good indeed. Jessica often returns all this affection with a big smile or a hug. James Clark, KCRG, TV9 News.
You may have noticed little Jessica didn't have any winter boots in this story, but a community group in Mount Vernon gave Jessica some boots right after TV9 dropped by to see her.
Stay with us on this Christmas morning. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, and joining us this morning is ISU nutritionist Jan Temple. Merry Christmas.
Well, and Merry Christmas to you.
We're going to show you a way to whip up some fun for your family by whipping up some holiday edible creations, is what you call it.
These are kind of edible crafts, and we've tried to make them so that they're appropriate for the holiday season.
Now, Jen has promised to put Andy and me to work. So.
That's right, that's right. I get to do a lot of cooking, but it's the opportunity for you folks to show just how wonderful you are in the kitchen, too.
Oh, we got you fooled, Jen.
But it'll be just fine. So I'll kind of coach you along. I think we're going to start over here with these Rudolph or reindeer sandwiches.
Yeah.
And what we've done with this is just take a simple peanut butter sandwich, and then we're going to go through and decorate this, because how many reindeer are there? This is a trick question.
There are enough to take Santa around the world.
So however many we think we need, that's how many Andy's going to make more of with my help. So I've got peanut butter already on this one, but I'm going to make this one, show you what to do. Okay, do you see how we've cut this then from corner to corner, and then we're going to cut it again in the opposite corners so that we've got 4 little pieces here.
Okay.
4
All
triangles.
right, 4 triangles, and each of those is going to become a little reindeer face. Now, I think it's easiest to use a plastic sack that we've put peanut butter inside and then clipped the corner. And then you can either, depending on how good you are, Andy.
Oh, I'm good, Jan.
If you want to try to go through and hit it on the little pretzel to make the antlers, you can do that, or you can just squeeze it right on the sandwich and then stick the antler in place. See, you've got lots of options. You've got lots of options.
This is basically your glue dispenser.
This is your glue dispenser, yes. Or
That's
if
a
you
great
don't,
idea.
or if you don't want to use this, you can always take a little spatula and put some peanut butter on the end and then just dip. So we got lots of options here on how you can go about getting those antlers on.
Don't you?
Hey, we try to please, you
Good
know.
stuff.
Try to make it so that we have a wide variety of skill levels handled here. And then to make the facial features on this, here again we're going to continue to use the peanut butter as the glue, and this is when I think it's easiest to just put some little dabs on there to begin with. And then, what color eyes should we have this little reindeer have? We can use these little mini M&Ms. If your children will eat raisins, raisins would really be much more healthy, but considering that this is Christmas,
Let's let
we
loose
thought
a
we'd
little bit.
let loose, and it's fine to go through. So
Gotta load up for the winter.
well, yeah. Should we be really extravagant here and do orange eyes?
Yeah, we can go orange.
See, I mean, brown's just kind of
Yeah, it's blasé. Yeah.
right. But then, see, then we could decide if we're going to do one of these small mini M&Ms for the nose, or I wouldn't put it past Andy to sneak over and get one of the big M&Ms from our next activity.
You know me too well, Jan.
This is how your little reindeer looks then
So
when
that's
you
the
get
after
the
look.
face. So this is the after look.
Right.
And we're going to go through and see if Andy can take one of these from start to finish.
The challenge
I've got
is
a
on.
whole, I have an entire thing of peanut butter here for him. And just plain bread. And you've got a number of different spatulas that you can try to make the sandwich, cut it, and see if you can decorate. Okay?
So that's Andy's task.
So
there.
that's
He's making
Andy's
reindeer
task. So
faces.
he's making reindeer faces. And
what do we have over here?
And then over here, we're going to use Rice Krispies. And all of us have had little Rice Krispies before, and we love those little Rice Krispie treats. And with this, we've added some green food coloring to it just to make it a little more festive for the holidays. Okay, and then I've gone through and decorated this by using a number of things that hopefully you'll have some of these around the house. At least the popcorn should be pretty easy to get a hold of.
Popcorn's a standard.
That's a standard that most of us would have that. And then I just couldn't resist. They have a new product on the market. There he goes, stealing already. Those were supposed to go on the little. Oh.
You can't trust
And
Andy
now
in the
he's going to
kitchen
say,
here.
well, maybe Santa hasn't made it to your house yet. You better be careful.
Santa has never paid him a visit.
We weren't supposed to tell that part.
That's right.
But
I should have
anyway,
gotten her
as
call.
far as there's this new product called Rainbow Vanilla Wafers that are just all these really fun, colorful little vanilla wafers that just seemed a really great thing to use, and that kids would enjoy. The color and the flavor is just like a traditional vanilla wafer. So those, we're going to let Renee be creative, and we have some little Teddy Grahams and some popcorn and some
My reindeer just lost his
M&Ms.
Some red and green M&Ms here.
Right, and she too is going to use some of the peanut butter. And yeah, just let her decorate. We've got little squares. You could go through and make a tree, but there's no reason you can't just cut it into little squares and proceed to decorate from there.
All right,
so
Andy, the
how
race
is he
is
done?
on here.
Okay, how are you
do a
doing? Have you
creation.
got? Did you make one from scratch?
Yeah.
You're finishing decorating the ones that I had.
I ate one of his.
Okay.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. That's an easy way out. All right. Renee,
Okay,
the
all
race
right,
is
here you
on.
go. See how you
Wait,
do.
what part's next?
All right. Trying to monitor these folks. All right. So,
like,
but the main
Ready,
thing,
Set, Cook or something.
that's right. And the main thing that we're trying to accomplish here is just realizing that you can have fun doing some very simple things together in the kitchen. And these, you know, the peanut butter sandwich is something that if dinner isn't quite ready or you're having an evening meal, this is something that'll help tide the children over, keep them occupied, and yet they're not eating things that aren't totally appropriate. And this is quite clever. She is creative. We're having fun.
So how can people contact you here?
They can contact us through your very website and get all the information on how to do this.
Okay,
All right.
really quick, let's show our edible creations here.
There we go.
Andy.
Congratulations to both of you. You've done a fine job. You pass the Christmas cooking test.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Jen. Good to have you
You're
here
welcome.
this morning.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Hey, we got a lot to talk about coming up besides food, and it's the football season. You know Kurt Warner. You've heard his name. We'll be talking about him coming up next.
This is a special edition of KCRG TV9 News, sponsored by APAC Customer Services, a team of people who can.
Good morning and Merry Christmas. I'm Renee Chou.
And I'm Andy Shaw. Merry Christmas. Welcome back to this holiday edition of the Saturday Morning News.
Usually Andy and I are on the air for 3 hours every Saturday morning, but today we're only on the air for just 1 hour.
And instead of telling you what's happening today, we are taking a look at what's happened over the past year.
The new year will bring both a new face and a returning face to the Cedar Rapids City Council. On January 3rd, a Cedar Rapids police officer will park his patrol car and begin directing the city's safety department. And a former city finance commissioner will regain the city hall office he left 4 years ago. TV9's Dave Fransman says both incoming council members have been getting ready.
Trace wire all the way up and over to a J-box up the ceiling in order to feed that out.
For Cedar Rapids Housing Programs Director Lyle Hansen, picking the spot for a new electrical outlet is not what you'd call a big budget decision. On January 3rd, things change in a big way. Hansen begins overseeing the entire Cedar Rapids city budget then, now running about $260 million a year. That's definitely a step up. But as a two-term finance commissioner now returning to office, he's got a head start.
I have 4 years of experience, so that's made my learning curve relatively short on a number of different fronts. There's new issues come up that it's going to take me a little bit longer to get the rest of the story.
That's what Hanson and police officer Dave Zahn have basically done since the November election, tried to catch up on the rest of the story in city government. Both have shadowed current council members for weeks, sitting in on discussions, meeting city department heads, and getting ready for their turn to sit up front. As a total newcomer to politics, Zahn admits he was confronted with perhaps the biggest adjustment since his upset win in November.
Going from when I won the election Tuesday night to coming here Wednesday morning, I wasn't quite sure what to expect, and I was a little apprehensive.
To help the transition, he's hung up his uniform for now and taken a new temporary assignment at the Cedar Rapids Police Department. That job, with an office right next to Police Chief Mike Clapholes, involves mainly learning how to do his new job as safety commissioner. To go from one of 200 sworn officers to the boss is an eye-opening experience.
You know, and all of a sudden you've won the election, and you are now going to tell everybody here and over there in the other departments what to do, as opposed to being one of the persons that's being told what to do. And so there's the great unknown there.
Anything that's not on here that you were hoping that you had a time to...
But making the unknown known is part of the process of getting ready to help run city government. Both newcomers and returning council members have even met together in team-building exercises like this to get to know each other better. After all, beginning January 3rd, they are on the same team. Dave Fransman, KCRG, TV9 News.
Both Lyle Hanson and Dave Zahn have one thing in common besides winning last November's election. Both started working for the city of Cedar Rapids shortly after college.
Nearly every high school football player has a dream to make it into the NFL. Not many ever achieve that dream, but one Cedar Rapids native has made it into the National Football League, but it wasn't an easy path. Kurt Warner played for several teams before finally making it big with the St. Louis Rams. Many Eastern Iowans are proud of what Kurt has accomplished this year, but in this day of instant gratification, play me or trade me, and throw me the ball attitudes, it is Kurt's sheer determination, his persistence, his patience that make him such a great story. TV9's Scott Sable has the story.
Watching Kurt Warner as a junior at Regis High School back in 1987, he hardly looked like he would become an all-pro quarterback someday. In this game against LaSalle, he threw 2 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown. Remember that game your junior year?
Man, I don't know. I don't want to talk about my junior year. We weren't very good. But
2 picks in that game, but after that, your senior year, I saw all touchdowns.
You don't got to talk about that now. It's a long time ago. Changed my ways now.
Kurt really worked hard on his game and had a great senior year, leading Regis to the playoffs while throwing 19 touchdowns in 9 games. And his high school coach remembers his big arm.
He just had amazing arm strength, and looking back at some old films this year after, reminiscing a little bit, he was throwing 50, 60, 70-yard strikes downfield.
It was a long road to NFL fame, Regis to UNI, to the Arena League, to NFL Europe, to the Rams. But all along, Kurt kept his faith.
You never know what plan the Lord has for you, and so I tried to just focus on him and follow the path that he had. And there was times where I didn't know if this was in the plans, if this was in what he wanted me to do, but I kept following him and focusing on him.
And boy, has that faith paid off. Kurt leads the NFL with 36 touchdown passes, tied for 5th highest single season total in NFL history. And Warner's led the Rams to a 12-2 record, clinching home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
Hey, how's it feel to clinch the home field advantage, buddy? Man, it feels great. It's great to do it with 2 games left. Now we get healthy and get ready to come back here in January.
Are you amazed at what he's done?
Totally. It's been a special year, so we're real happy with him.
Think he can make it to the Super Bowl?
All the way.
When I was here a couple of months ago, you couldn't find a Kurt Warner jersey. Now look, they come in all shapes and sizes. If only Mookie was a boy.
We got about 6 jerseys in the 4th game, and I had people lined up. They didn't care what size it was. They wanted them.
What do you think of all the attention that he's getting?
It's crazy. It's weird. He's still my kid, and it's crazy that everybody wants a piece of him, and Kurt thinks it's crazy, too.
Success couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Kurt, who is a deeply religious family man, represents everything great about sports.
We need role models, and Kurt Warner is no phony, okay? He's a humble, simple, sincere, smart, talented young man, and has been for a long time. And he's been very, very persistent. And he's had a faith that's kept him going.
What a great story. Congratulations to Kurt Warner and the Rams. Also congratulations to Dedrick Ward, Tim Dwight, and Michael Rohn, all from the area and all playing in the National Football League.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Throughout the year, we've introduced you to many waiting children. They're all waiting for someone to spend some time with them. Many of the kids you met have found someone in a new big brother or sister.
And one of them is 14-year-old Michael. TV9's Jenna Miller shows how his new relationship brings joy to both big and little brother.
Basketball is one of Michael's favorite sports, along with football, baseball, and, well, anything related. He used to play them all with his dad until his dad died early this year. Now, Michael's new big brother, Mano, is helping to fill the void.
He watches football and plays sports with me and stuff. That's what my dad did all the time.
Mano is from India. A job at Rockwell Collins brought him to Cedar Rapids, where he didn't know many people. But now he knows he's found the perfect match.
It helped Michael out and helps me out both ways too, and it feels good inside to be able to help somebody and be there with someone.
Mano always wanted to be a big brother when he was in college, but didn't have the time. Now he does, so he gave it a shot.
It's much better than going home and sitting watching TV and doing nothing else. It's great to hang out with Michael, have somebody to play against except for the computer.
But when it comes to playing basketball, who will win?
Probably me.
Why?
Because he can't shoot.
We played in YMCA once, and yeah, that's one sport I never got. And yeah, he'll beat me pretty bad.
But no matter who wins the basketball game, Michael and Mano are both winners with each other, and with a lot in common.
He goes around saying, you know, the only thing we don't have in common is that I don't like Mountain Dew. So he loves Mountain Dew. Yeah.
But they both love to spend time together.
When we do stuff together, it's kind of good for me and kind of good for him too, since his family's in India.
But now they've both found a new family member, a brother.
It's a very rewarding experience. I'm just speaking off my personal experience, and there's nothing to lose.
If you're interested in becoming a big brother or sister,
just call the Big Brothers Big Sisters office in your community at one of the numbers on your screen. More than 100 kids are waiting.
And speaking of kids, up next, Andy talks with some Eastern Iowa kids about the meaning of Christmas and some other things.
Yeah, wait to hear what they have to say. We'll be right back.
Children all across Eastern Iowa probably didn't sleep much last night, and that's because they were keeping their eyes and ears open for Santa Claus.
That's right, and I had the opportunity to spend some time with several 5-year-olds from Little Learners Christian School in Robbins who give us a look at Christmas through their magical eyes.
Rudolph and Dasher. Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Rudolph, and I don't know the others.
What does Santa Claus say?
Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho. And he's the boss of the reindeers.
He's the boss of the reindeer? What does he tell them to do?
When he wants them to come on the sleigh, he calls their name and they just come with them. And I can tell you about a present that said open before Christmas.
Okay.
I opened it, and Dad helped me with the hard tape. It was a roll, and I opened it up, and one of those things that you stick upon your window.
What did it say?
It didn't say anything. I do got a movie about that one when they try being Santa, and then he does really get into Santa.
Really?
But the dad doesn't want to be, and the mom thinks he really isn't, and the other person on it, his cousin, they don't really think he is, but the kid thought he really was Santa. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Oh, ho, hey, something like that. But I just have that ho, ho in it.
You just added that?
My dad sang it that way.
How does your dad sing it?
With that ho, ho in it.
Is his voice as high as yours?
Lower.
So what's it sound like?
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Something like that. There's lots of different ways to sing it. Jingle bell, Batman smells Robin, laid an egg, Mobile lost the wheel, and Joker got away. Hey! Jingle bells, jingle all the way. How fun it is to ride in one that's open sleigh.
Nice job. That was good.
Rudolph.
Rudolph? How come he has a big red nose?
Cause he's Rudolph. Roo. Cause he's kind of like a roo.
He's like a roo?
Yeah,
What's a roo?
kind of like a kangaroo. He has a red nose. That's what's funny about him. And then they walk around the side, and then they go on the other side of the house in the back, and then then he grew bigger, and then he wanted to be Santa again, and then he went on a run, and then Mom and Dad, take me to Toy Story 2, please. And then they didn't really yank it, but they said, who commands this? And then they put up the thing, and then it Merry Christmas, Christine. I don't know which one to marry, Tyler or Caleb, or maybe I'm going to marry somebody else.
When are you going to decide?
When I'm a kid.
Think she has a crush on you?
Maybe. And then they put up the candy can, but it didn't have like this on it. It was set straight up, and then he picked, and then this thing came out, and then he pushed the button, and then they went down into the Merry Christmas, Christine. And then Merry Christmas. And then they said, no, I am not Santa. And then that they...
So what are we talking about?
I don't know what the movie called.
You can look in the camera, look right into the camera, and say, Merry Christmas, Mom and Dad.
They're not in there.
But they'll see you on TV.
Merry Christmas, Mom and Dad. And then he says, Merry Christmas to all, and all to a good night, and that's over.
Those kids were just too adorable. I bet you were smiling during that whole interview.
They're unbelievable. It's amazing what how through a child's eyes everything is so peaceful and happy.
It'll be interesting to see who Christine ends up marrying then.
Yeah, I know.
Who couldn't decide who.
Yeah, Caleb, Tyler, and I'm sure after now, maybe more people might be wanting a little interest in Christine. She was a character.
They were
Definitely.
all characters.
Yeah, thanks to them for letting us share their Christmas thoughts, and if they are part of our future as we head into the next century, I think we're okay.
And Merry Christmas to them, and stay with us. We'll be right back. And that wraps up this special Christmas Day edition of TV9 News. Andy, it's always a pleasure to spend time with you, and thank you for joining us.
And from all of us, the TV9 family, to you and your family, we wish you a joyous holiday season and a happy, safe, and very prosperous new year.
Have a great day and stay tuned now for a Coach Marathon coming up next on TV9. Happy holidays.
This special edition of KCRG TV9 News has been sponsored by APAC Customer Services, a team of people who can.